Hi Phil, how are you today?
Hi, Leonie. I'm great. Thank you.
Welcome to my podcast channel. And today we have Phil Preston, and he will be talking with us about why purpose is important and how we can embed purpose in everything we do. So I met Phil as he was the president of the New South Wales chapter for 2 years through the professional Speakers Australia, the association that I'm part of. And so I was really impressed with Phil when I first worked with him. When I met him at the actual events, he was very warm and welcoming. And as a new member, I was a little bit nervous. I didn't know many people, but he really made me feel comfortable in the group and introduced me to people. So I really appreciate over those 2 years. It was very professional, someone I love speaking with, and always have a lot to learn from Phil. So
Thanks, Leonie. There's a lot of mutual respect here.
yes, and so in terms of Phil's background, he is a keynote speaker and facilitator in the last 12 years running his own business. And prior to that, he has 19 years experience in corporate. The speaker topics, he's got some topics, one called Winning in the New Economy, putting purpose into practice. The purposeful leader is the best leader. Is that you? And he's also an author of a book that he's just released this year, which was a great success launching it. Yes.
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 I launched it in the middle of the start of COVID, so
Yes.
it was
And
something
so,
positive to do during COVID. Yeah.
yes. And so the book is called Connecting Profit with Purpose. And he had over 100 people, right, attend
Yeah,
the
about
launch online.
150. Yeah.
150 people.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, it was actually a case of going virtual. There was no choice to go virtual, but it actually increased the reach significantly. So that was a positive learning.
Yes, I really enjoyed being part of that, seeing you and 100 people were present. That's amazing. Congratulations. What a great achievement for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I really want to learn more about you and get to know you, and then talk a little bit about clearly about purpose in business. So the first question I have for you is, can you tell us about your career and business journey, Phil?
Yeah. So the backstory is I grew up in Hobart in Tasmania, which is a lovely place to grow up in. But when you graduate from university in a place like Hobart, there's not a lot of career jobs there for graduates. So I came to Sydney and worked with a company called the A&P Society, which is currently going through some very hard times. But I then I quickly moved on to some other, I guess, financial insurance and investment roles. And I moved my way up over the next 19 years. And for about half of that 19-year corporate career, I was managing financial research teams. And as a manager, boy, I wish I'd known then what I know now, because in those industries, and some of your viewers might be in this situation, people focus very much on the technical things that you do, but they don't think so much about the human side of the business. And so managers are just expected to know how to do stuff. So yeah, I did that for up until 2007. It was a great time to be in the investment industry. And long story short, I'd sort of achieved a reasonable amount. However, there was a number of factors, including the culture I was working in, that didn't seem like something I wanted to be in longer term. And like when you're approaching, say, 40 years old, you think, do I want to stay here for the rest of my life, or do I want to make some radical change? So I threw caution to the wind and had that midlife crisis and decided I would try something else. And the next part is running my own small business, but I won't jump into that now. That's sort of up to the end of the corporate career.
Mm. And so, in terms of your business journey, why did you go into business, and how did the business idea actually come about?
To be honest, I didn't know what I was really going to do when I went into business. I did a little bit of contracting work, and I realized I didn't want to contract back to the industry I came from. One of the things I did do before I left my corporate career was, it's one of those informal projects that you sometimes do with colleagues. You're just driven by passion for something. And we were trying to understand how environmental and social issues would affect the companies we were analyzing. And I found this really interesting. But what was even more interesting was having to work with other parts of the company and other people who didn't report to us. And we couldn't tell them what to do, but our challenge was to influence what they would do. And so we had to try and get them to come on board with this, I guess, deeper form of analysis. And to do that, we had to help them understand what was in it for them, what the win-win looked like. And I just found that change process so energizing. And when I went out on my own to set up my own practitioner-driven business, I found that suits my personality as well, that I can be the person that sees the needs of different parties and can often bring them together. Now, some people like very, I guess, activist-driven approaches where they say you must do this or that's wrong. For me, I like working with what we have and trying to find the win-win. So, yeah, I've sort of gone down that path, and I think purpose comes into this in a big way. In terms of purpose, is very much about trying to find the win-win together, whether it's in a team or in a community or in society as a whole. So yeah, I just love doing what I'm doing.
Yes, it does sound like it's really energizing for you to work with different people and help them come together. And I have seen you present as well. So it's really some profound stuff that you do share with people around the techniques you use. So moving along to the next question, what would you say would be the most difficult challenge for you in creating your business, Phil?
Yes, everything. Well, not quite everything. I had this idea that I would be a speaker and a facilitator, and I thought 90% of that job will be coming up with a good speech or knowing what to facilitate. It turns out that was only 10% of the job. The other 90% was actually building a business and understanding how to create products, how to do your marketing, how to do the back end stuff. That's really boring. And so you've got to, I find, as you would know through your own practice, Leonie, you've got so many hours in the day and you've got to work out where to allocate them. Is it about managing the business? Are you working on the business? Are you actually helping clients? Are you delivering work for your clients? So it's just a juggle, but then coming out of a corporate career where you're doing something that's very specialized and quite nichey and not having to actually worry about your own profit and loss part within that. Look, I found just being thrown into a business situation was extremely challenging, and it's an ongoing challenge, but you get better at it as you go along.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, during this time, have you had mentors?
I've certainly had a few mentors, but you know what I think has been the most powerful thing? It's been peer support, or what I guess peer mentoring.
Yes.
I found myself in we call it a mastermind group, but it's really a peer support group. And I've been in a couple of different peer support groups over the years. And if it's about monthly, that's about right. You just check in, and yes, you help, other people can help you solve your challenges, but it also brings a level of self-accountability to what you're doing. Because if you've got to talk to someone about it and tell them about it, you think a little bit more deeply about what you're actually achieving.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing about the mastermind group. I created my own mastermind group as well with career coaches, and we've been running for close to 2 years. And you're right, they're like a peer support group. It does make a big difference.
Yeah. And do you look forward to it?
Yeah, I do. It's exciting. Yeah, every time we catch up.
Yeah, it's it's the highlight of my month for sure.
Yeah, maybe I should do it more regularly. We're meeting about every 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of going to the topic, why is purpose important?
I think for anyone who's worked in a corporate environment or similar environment, you might be familiar with the old process where a lot of companies go, oh yes, our purpose is this, and they create a nice fancy statement. They, on an offsite strategy session, they'll craft it and they'll wordsmith it and they'll get it right. And then they'll go back to work and everyone ignores it for another 12 months until they have their next strategy offsite. So that's pretty much what's happened with regards to corporate or business purpose for as long as I've been around, until the last year and a half or 2 years. And there's a number of things going on. And it's a combination of, I suppose, global trends and also how you get performance and optimize organizational performance. So let me just talk to the global trend and the people piece. So the global trend is that, our planet is pretty full. And so we're starting to realize that growth isn't unlimited. And therefore a lot of companies, particularly the large multinational companies, are saying, okay, it's not a great outcome for us if in the US we create another billionaire if there's 100,000 people falling, into poverty at the same time. It doesn't give us a good market to sell into. So we've got to actually create inclusive growth to improve our own profitability. So companies are realizing they just can't do their own thing in isolation. If they want to grow their profits, they have to bring customers and other stakeholder groups along. And to do that, they have to identify, okay, what's our purpose as an organization? What is the social challenge or problem that we're solving? Just quickly, Cochlear, an Australian company, has this really beautiful purpose statement. It says, we help people hear and be heard.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is beautifully crafted. So you could imagine, not only does it tell investors and other people what they're doing and their customers what they're aiming to do, their staff would be highly motivated by that. So now, I guess, turning to that staff angle, purpose, probably the most meaningful audience for your business or corporate purpose is your staff. Yeah, sure, you've got to tell people what you do, but they need to be motivated by it. And studies are showing, for example, there was a study of 28 very high performing companies globally, and they found that purpose was central to these companies just continually performing strongly. So on that level, purpose plays a role, but also from a personal perspective, teams and companies where the people feel like they have a purpose over and above even competitive factors, they tend to be more productive and more innovative and perform better.
Yes. And going back to your earlier word, it energizes you on a daily basis.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then the challenge, though, is to really embed it in everything you do. You can't just have the statement, think the job's done.
Yes.
Yeah, people have to relate what their purpose means to their role.
Yeah.
So, if you're in Cochlear and you're in the accounting department, it's going to mean something a little different than if you're in a product development role. So
Yes.
you've got to break it down and make it real. Yeah.
Yes. So how do you embed it in everything you do?
Yeah, well, first of all, you've got to have the mindset shift going on. And so that's really from the board down and down to the front line. So one of the insurance companies I work with, their chairperson, Elizabeth Bryan, she's been very outspoken and said, we've got to get our purpose right, then just relentlessly drive it down through everything we do. The other thing, and I say this too, because many of us think of purpose as contributions to charity and those types of activities. I just want to put a little bit of a different slant on that. So there's sort of three types of ways you can express purpose through business activities. Number one is, yes, you can get involved in volunteering and donations and fundraising. That's good. That's method number one. Number two, your organization might have corporate social responsibility practices. So, for example, they might have diversity and inclusion agendas. They might have a reconciliation action plan, and they might have properly certified paper that they use in their products, and so on. They're all things that businesses have to do to keep people on side. And then there's a third level, which actually creates value for the business. So one of the law firms that I covered in my book, they realised that their staff profile wasn't the same as their customer profile. So they had customers saying, look, you come in and present to us, but you don't look like us. And there was certain, I guess, traits within there. The law firm, I think, was very Caucasian, and it had this profile, and they weren't really getting the best relationships with their investors. So that was an instance where they could look at their diversity agenda and actually marry it up to a business opportunity. So it became, a bottom line conversation, not just the right thing to do. And when you get into those conversations and find those opportunities, and they exist in many places, I've just given you one example, that is so powerful, because what you're doing, you're bringing the whole weight of the business behind that activity. It's not something, we're not just donating a few dollars. We're not just doing one day of volunteering. We're actually bringing all the resources of our business along and pointing it at this challenge. So that's what I get really excited about, to find those, I guess, top level or third level activities that have enormous impact, but also grow your bottom line.
Yes. So embedding it in everything we do is essentially, you're looking at an organization, the people, the customers, the internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, and trying to bring everyone into an alignment to achieve the common goal, the organization's purpose. So it sounds great, but it's like a real challenge, right? In business.
That's right. Yeah, and it does require new thinking, because there was a great example this year of the business Airbnb, which most of us are familiar with. When COVID hit, their 12 years of business building just collapsed in 5 weeks. And, their future was very uncertain. So they had 2 paths. One path was to say, okay, let's just shut down everything. Maybe we close up the business, or we sack a whole lot of people and we just return as much money as we can to shareholders, or what's left. But the more enlightened path they took was, okay, we're going to identify who our key stakeholders are, and then figure out how we can support them in the best way. So that wasn't just people like me who had a booking and received a credit for that booking. It was their hosts. So they actually gave money to their hosts as much as they could. They couldn't give them the full amount, but they gave them $250 million was given to hosts. But more importantly, they did have to lay off quite a few staff, but the way they did that was quite exemplary. And if you get a chance, look up how they did it, because they really supported their staff in that layoff process. They gave them lots of benefits they wouldn't normally give, because when they grow again, they want those staff to come back and want to come back to them, business choice. So I think purpose, when it's done really well, isn't about taking the easy option. It's about really thinking through what's going to create the most value in the medium to long term.
Yes. So with what they did for Airbnb, it sounds like, obviously, even though they are letting staff go, that, like you said, if they are going to grow, they want the same people to come back. So it's about treating people with that mutual respect, with kindness, and then in that way they're still embedding their purpose along every part of what they do. As going back to that question about how do you embed it in everything you do, not just from the beginning of hiring, with what HR refers to as the employer life cycle, but also towards the end of that person's employment with the organization. Because yes, good organizations, they do tend to then, if they do grow, they would want to hire the staff they had back and all that training they've had in the past as well. So I will definitely have a look at Airbnb. Thank you. Is there anything about your book that you'd like to share with us today?
My book, or a book that I like?
Well, I'll talk about a book you like in a moment, but I've got the book, looking at your book right there, and it just made me go, no, maybe I should have a look at that book.
That's it. So connecting profit with purpose is really for, and I see this a lot, and you might have seen it, people who go to work, and sometimes there's a little bit of a values adjustment that has to be made when you step in the door of work. For some of us, it's a big adjustment. For others, it's not so big. But a lot of people are looking for, how do I make a real difference in the world? Because when I look at an issue like climate change or whatever it is I'm passionate about, I feel like such a small player. What can I do? I feel insignificant. However, using some of the, I guess, business agenda, or looking at your own business and organizational challenges, you don't necessarily have to make a difference outside of work. You can often do a lot inside the business and help direct a whole lot of, organizational assets at that challenge. So, I gave a brief example around a diversity agenda, helping to solve a problem for that law firm. What the book does is sort of breaks down a process for how you think about that, no matter what your business is, and to do it in a profitable way. And I realized when I was in a financial research role in my corporate career, that if you want companies to change their behavior, you've got to link it to profitability. They'll do nice things, they'll be good corporate citizens, but for them to really make change and drive change, you've got to make that link to the bottom line. And it is necessary because the corporate sector is typically 3 times bigger than the government and not-for-profit sector put together. So if you want the world to be a better place, working on businesses is a great way to go about it. So yeah, I've tried to provide the how-to around that, and I've got good reviews and people seem to like it and put it into practice. So fingers crossed, we'll see a lot of great world change out there.
Okay, so how can we buy this book?
Well, you can, couple of ways. You can go to my website, philpreston.com.au, and you'll find it pretty easily on there. Or you can go to the normal distribution channels like Amazon and a range of other well-known vendors, and you can buy the book online or get the ebook version. And yeah, there's many ways you can find it.
I'm going to buy the book. I would definitely buy the book. So now I've got 2 questions I ask every guest on the show. And so what is a book that you like to give away as a gift to somebody, and why?
Yes, well, I don't think I referred to it before, but one of my favorite books is Tribal Leadership by Logan King and Fisher Wright. This was actually written about 9 years ago. However, I think it stands the test of time. And what the authors did is to go into high-performing organizations and try and find out why, what was going on. And a lot of it was around, I guess, the culture being, I don't know if they coined this phrase, but it's the me to we shift. It's not about me, it's about us or we. But what they also found empirically here was that high-performing teams, or the highest performing teams, are always focused on a social goal or a social challenge, not just growing the bottom line. And in fact, if they focus on that social goal, then the bottom line growth just happens. It falls in naturally. So yeah, there's some really good, I just refer back to this all the time. I keep coming back to it again and again. So that's the sort of book you want to recommend.
All right, great. Thank you for sharing. And in terms of what do you do on a daily basis that makes you happier and more productive, Phil?
Well, let me just briefly ask you, are you a morning person or an evening person?
Morning person.
Okay, well, you're in good company. So I start my day very early, typically around 5 a.m. And one of the things I prioritize is getting out for a walk or a run. So one day I'll walk the dog, and then on the alternate days I'll go running. I live near Wollongong. There's lots of nice beaches, but also lovely hills and tracks that we can run around. And I think it's just to get your metabolism going. It must do something. Endorphins, something's pumping away. You get back to your desk and it's like, wow, the world's a great place, and I'm really going to hit today running.
Yes, no, I really think that, I think most of the speakers or everyone says that physical health, walking, jogging, some form of exercise makes such a big difference in a morning routine. And I've also actually have tried to do 15 minutes of running a few times a week. And yes, you're right. After a run, you come back, you feel refreshed, and you're ready to start your day. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed listening to your the examples that you gave, and the passion and the excitement and in the book that you have to share. It really does sound like you love what you're doing, and it is energizing for you to work with people and organizations and bring people together to achieve a purpose. So thank you, Phil.
Great. And I know you're passionate about your work, so it's great talking to people who are also passionate and not ticking boxes. So it's fantastic.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, everyone else. I will be actually interviewing a few more special guests coming up. So stay tuned and look forward to share more podcasts with you soon. Thank you. See you, Phil.
Bye.